my first internship was almost 10 years ago, and I finally made a full circle moment that makes me feel like, "Oh, okay, maybe things are going right now." But you really have to have that grit. If you really want to do this, then you need to try your best.
You're listening to HBCU in Entertainment, where diversity, equity, and inclusion refine the future of entertainment. I'm your co host, Amira Johnson, Alumni and Campus Relations Coordinator at ECOP, and welcome back to another episode. In this episode, we're featuring one of our amazing alumni, Rance Ward, a staff writer for Imperfect Women for 20th Century Studios and Apple. I can't wait for you to hear more about his journey. With that being said, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Rance. It's so nice to meet you. How are you
Nice to
today?
meet you too. It's good. It's a beautiful day outside.
Yes, definitely enjoying the spring kind of vibe that's slowly approaching. So,
Finally.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, would love to just first have you introduce yourself just so we can get to know you a little bit more, and then would love to dive into your wide variety of experience that you have. But would love to just introduce you to our listeners.
Yeah, sure. Rance Ward. I'm a writer, director, and producer from Rancho Cucamonga, California. So 45 minutes outside of LA.
Nice. Awesome. So, just want to dive in because you have an incredible background and just so much experience in the industry. So, you've worked with some heavy hitters over the years, including Will Packer Productions, Blumhouse Productions, Warner Brothers, Confluential Films, Nickelodeon, Disney, and so many more. So, would love for you to just walk us through your career journey and just talk about all of those different experiences that you've had thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my career journey really started when I was younger. Growing up in Rancho, there wasn't too much to do, but my family always loved watching TV and film. So my parents had me watching anything they were watching. I'm the youngest of two older sisters, so they forced me to watch whatever they were watching as well. And I just always loved watching everything. And it was when I was 12, my parents gave me the Spike Lee box set, and that was the first time that I was like, "Oh, this is a job that you can actually do." And anyone that knows Spike Lee is that with his voice, he tells every story that he wants to, and it's always unapologetically him. And so even when I was 12, I knew that that's what I wanted to do, to really be a voice for our community and really put important stories out there. But also that early, I knew that I wanted to be a gatekeeper. So I knew that I wanted to, even though I wanted to write and direct, I knew that I wanted to be a producer as well. So I knew I wanted to do that since I was 12. Went to Howard University. That's where I was really honing my voice. Then I went to the Peter Stark producing program. But in between, I got into HBCU in LA. And that was because I was graduating that year and I didn't have an internship lined up. I knew I was moving back to LA. I also already knew that I was going to USC, but I didn't have a summer internship. And so when I got into HBCU in LA, it really did change my life and change the trajectory of everything that you just listed. Because my first internship was at Will Packer Productions. And that was just such a fun transition period to coming from Howard, being able to be at a majority Black company. Obviously, the face of it and the owner of it is a Black man that has had so much success in the industry. And so having that transition before I got to USC was really helpful. But it really was because of that internship that I got everything else. The recommendation to go to Blumhouse after I did two stints at Will Packer Production actually, but the recommendation came from the president at that time, James Lopez, who's now over there at Macro. And that's the reason I even got the next internship. And then it just cascaded from there. And then I got my first full time job during my second year at USC at Confluential and Black Love, working for Tommy and Cody Lane Oliver. And so that was amazing. But I also got that recommendation from Toy Monique, who was working at Will Packer Productions at the time, who happened to know them, and they said they were looking for an assistant. And so really everything came from HBCU in LA. It just all started building from there.
Wow, that's amazing. I think that just speaks to just always being yourself and always just being in these environments and never knowing what's gonna come from it because it just sounds like everything was lined up so perfectly, the way that the timing of it all happened, just from going from this stage to that stage. So that's wonderful. Congratulations on your success and your journey. I would love to go back to kind of that initial moment when you received those Spike Lee films and just talk about that a little bit more. What was it about the films that really sparked your interest in entertainment? And do you have a favorite Spike Lee film, if any?
I love this conversation every single time, so thank you for asking it.
Of course.
It really honestly, the first one that I watched that really meant something to me, it's again, being one of the only Black families in Ranch Cucamonga and coming from parents who are very pro-Black, and it taught us that from a very young age. Seeing School Days for the first time was just transformational to me, um, because it's a story that really focuses Black voices. You see a lot of Black movies that we love that have to deal with the racism that we receive from white people, and it does kind of center sometimes the white voices and how we have to deal with that every single day of our lives. But a lot of Spike Lee films center Black people and they still have that conversation, and School Days is one of those, having these different and tough conversations that we have within the Black community and focusing on that. That really opened my eyes to, like, what we can do with storytelling, and it was my first time really seeing, HBCUs, and I was like, because I grew up going to majority white schools, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, there are schools where it's mostly Black people." That's amazing. And then my sister ended up going to Howard, and then I followed her to Howard. So it really, truly changed my trajectory. But my favorite Spike Lee film is Malcolm X. I can watch that movie whenever. I know it's 3 hours and 30 minutes, but it feels like an hour to me, and I can watch it over and over and over again. And Malcolm X being one of my heroes, I think Spike Lee did a fantastic job making that film. And even now, when I watch it, it's so inspirational to me because it's like, I wanna make something like this one day, this important, this beautiful, and I don't know how he did it, and one day I'll try to figure it out, but Malcolm X is just my favorite movie of all time.
Absolutely, yes. Beautiful answer. Love that you just kind of went back and took us through the journey, but love it, love it. So I'd love to also talk to you about your HBCU experience. You mentioned that you graduated from Howard University, where you received your BA in film. So how do you feel Howard prepared you for the industry? And were there any student organizations, teachers, or any definitive moments that really helped prepare you for where you are today?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know where I would be without Howard because, again, growing up going to majority white schools, and obviously I had family and there are Black people around me, but being around Black peers wasn't something that I was used to. And so that helped me come out of my shell in general. And just like meeting all these beautiful Black people from all over the diaspora was just really, really important for me personally. But I think that personal growth also led to me really establishing my voice. And every professor that I had at Howard, within the film program or outside of the film program, every single one of them, I really thank so much because they were really challenging in so many different ways. Like I've always been a curious person. That's also why I became an artist to begin with. But the way that they allowed us to ask questions, the way that they challenged us, and specifically in the film program, and I also got a minor in playwriting, the freedom that they gave me to just try everything. And I was film partners with my freshman year roommate, and who's still my best friend to this day. And we worked together on so many different projects. And truly, all of the professors, we were so experimental and we wanted to try to do everything under the sun. And they're like, you don't have to do that yet. And we're like, but we want to. We want to try as much as we can. And I'm so glad that they gave us the space to do that because even now it's made me a person that isn't afraid of pushing boundaries and learning on the job and figuring things out and really just pushing myself to do the best of whatever I can do.
Absolutely. I love that answer. I also love how you touched on curiosity being sort of what sparks being an artist, just being curious about the world around you and observing humans and just the things that we all go through. So I relate to that. And I love how you just brought that together with creating art. You also mentioned that you minored in playwriting. I found that interesting. Would you like to maybe talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. So I really think of my education at Howard as like two-sided for my major and my minor. For my major, it really was experimenting, trying different things, learning the technicalities of filmmaking, which was really helpful with all of the things that I was doing, and especially learning how to produce. Learned a lot at USC afterwards, but really the foundation of producing I really got from studying at Howard. But the playwriting part really helped me find my voice. We were challenged to not try to make these big concepts, where you're figuring, whatever, what I was doing on the film side. It was really understanding character. And like you said, with curiosity and understanding how people work and how they move and how they are, that was really that part of it. So there were just some creative classes that really was about you getting to know yourself and the other people in your class where I got really close for with a lot of these people because we just had to be vulnerable with each other and understand where we came from, and all of that learning really led itself to character building. And even to this day, I'm a very character focused writer because it's the most important thing to me. Obviously, I like doing like fun concepts, but I always come back to the character. And I learned that from my playwriting classes at Howard.
Absolutely. I love that. So would love to take us back sort of to where it began, ECOP, you being a part of the HBCU in LA cohort. Would you like to just talk to us a bit more about your journey and how ECOP has helped shape where you are today?
Yeah. Just community wise, honestly, right after graduating, it was so helpful because just jumping straight to LA, and there were a couple of us my year that we just graduated and then we started in the program and we're still here. But I really needed that. I'm a person that needs a couple, some time with big transitions just to like really find my footing. And being in the program just helped with that immensely, and because we were all first starting in the industry, it was just so helpful having other people that like if there was a rough day at your internship, you had someone that understood what you were going through. And I had great people at Will Packer that they were always helpful and they were there for me and they supported me. But it is helpful having other interns that that are your friends that you can just talk to and ask questions about. And then just the program that Miss Stacy has, even at that time, was able to build with having different people come to the panels every single week and learning how to be professional, how to be Black in Hollywood because it's very specific, and also how to set yourself up to have a sustainable career. All of those things are things I still go back to this day. And it was just a wonderful foundation that I got from this program.
That's beautiful. I find that quite often a lot of people talk about the community piece of the program that really helps them through it all, and even today, like you're saying, just having that foundation of people who are in it with you at the same time and kind of leaning on each other, especially when you have those bad days, because they come and sometimes it is hard, so you just want somebody who gets it and who is there with you at the time that is happening, so I love it. Would love to talk to you about some of the challenges that maybe you've encountered breaking into the industry, if you've encountered any, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I think this industry is just very specific. And so even with my other friends that are in other industries, when you try to explain a certain problem or how you have to work through a problem and the complications that come along with even just finding your footing and progressing in this industry, it's hard to understand if you're not actually in it. But I think at least when I started in this industry, we were a part of a wave of the culture changing. And I think in two different ways, it's very important to, especially what the program does too, and explaining how to be Black in this industry. Cause like I said, it is a very specific thing in any industry, but especially in this one, when we're trying to tell important stories, tell authentic stories. That is something that you really have to learn. And again, this program helped a lot with just understanding how that works. But that's another thing. But also, there's just a lot of rough days in Hollywood, and especially what's going on right now with the big contraction of everything. So you find that there's a lot of times that maybe you don't have a job, you're facing unemployment, but also you're struggling to go through your network and finding different peoples that can even connect you to someone to get a job, Or sometimes, unfortunately, you work for a person that's not a great person and that is yelling at you every single day or whatever. And I have friends that they work like 12 hours and they don't really get a lunch break and all of these things. And honestly, the best advice that I have for people that I learned for myself is to just always be true to yourself and always put your mental health first. It is a hard industry to work through. And I know that we always feel we have to take this opportunity. We have to take this opportunity. We have to stay here for this long. We have to do this. We have to treat this person this way, or we're going to be a failure. We're not going to be able to achieve our dreams. And I just refuse to believe that achieving my dream at the sake of my mental health is what I want out of life. And so I always tell people that you should put yourself and your mental health first. If there's anything going on, talk to people that you trust. Therapy is wonderful and does wonders for everyone. But also, if it's a situation you don't necessarily want to be in, then try to get out of the situation. I know it's not as easy as that, but I always say put your mental health first, and no matter what the situation is. And that's been helpful for me just going through this industry.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that and for bringing up mental health. Thank you just for being vulnerable there because I think it is so important. And I love how you put it. You should put yourself and your mental health first because I think sometimes that gets lost in conversations. I think it's more so all about the hustle, the grind of it all. Put yourself out there and put yourself first, but we forget the mental aspect of it, and I think our mental is what helps keeps us grounded in situations and is the only way that we can operate as our best selves is having everything aligned. So, thank you for bringing that up. That's so important. Would love to go back to what we were talking about earlier in regard to your internships. I know you touched on Will Packer a bit already, but would love to just know if you've had a favorite internship or if any of your career roles have been a favorite of yours thus far.
Oh, that's really that's a good question because they're all those internships were all very different. And I learned so much at each one, and I have friends that are, like, close friends from each of those internships. So, like, they're all very different, but I'll go, like, one by one. Will Packer, that was my first internship, so it was really just getting the footing of how this industry works and having people like, Alvy Hurtado, who's still at Will Packer, who was assistant at that time, and Toy Monique, who I mentioned earlier. They really just taught me so much, and they were so open, and I don't know, I guess they liked me very quickly, so they're like, "We're gonna help you as much as we can," and they still are to this day, and so I learned so much from them, because they had been assistants for a couple of years, I think, at that point, and me being a fresh intern, and they knew what I wanted to do. They're like, "Okay, this is a skill that I have, like, make sure you write down everything. Make sure if you have a question, get it answered. You don't just go out on your own," and, like, little fundamental things that people are just, "I have to do my best," and it's like, "Okay, but build a community, have people that you can rely on." That's something that I learned from Will Packer, and also it was my first time being able to read so many scripts, that were coming in. So that was just fun for me that I really appreciate. I learned from Will. He works harder than like anybody else. And I was like, okay, yeah, I want to be like this. And then when I went to Blumhouse, I also write a lot of genre. So, and Blumhouse has always been one of my favorite production companies. And so seeing the things that were coming into that company also helped me with my voice when it comes to genre. But also, there are more interns at that one because at my first internship, it was just one other intern who I loved still, my friend Danielle. But then the second one, it was just there was like 20 of us, and I was like, "Oh, this is this is kind of fun." And there's more people to like I can talk to. And we were talking through scripts, and it felt just like a small, fun cohort. But on that one, it was really just mostly reading and doing coverage, and reading, doing coverage, reading, doing coverage, and that was just giving me more experience, especially as I was getting back to my writing. And then the Warner Brothers one, that was my first time. I was on a desk. I was technically an assistant to two CEs, and I got to learn a lot from them and what they were doing for their job. But also, again, very close friend from that internship and working through that and being on higher ups desks too. the stress that comes from that. It's just having people that you can rely on when it's happening. So at both all of those internships, I learned so much in different parts of the industry. But really, I think it always comes back down to like the people around you that really make those experiences that I feel so grateful for.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Absolutely. Would love to talk to you about a full circle moment. So you went from production assistant and office intern at 20th Century Fox in 2016 to recently returning
Wow.
now as a staff writer. Yep.
Oh, so y'all just have my resume.
We do, we do. We do, definitely, yes. Impressive resume, by the way, seriously, yeah, you've done so many great things. So would love to talk to you about how does it feel now to be back, but in such a different and impactful position this time around? How's that going? How's that been for you?
Yeah. Okay. So I have been saying that Woolpacker was my first internship, but technically it was like in the real world. So my first one was at 20th Century in the features department when I was a sophomore in college, maybe. Um, and yeah, that was like that was a fun experience. I was the only intern in that department, so it was a little interesting. And I actually don't know where the other interns were because it's the studio was so big. So in that one, I got to just learn. That was the first time seeing a studio run, and that was really interesting. And so being on the lot was really fun. It was like, wow, I made it in Hollywood, which is so naive thinking about it now because whoa, that is not what it
Right.
means. But now finishing my first staffing job for a show by 20th, I actually haven't really thought that much about it, and it's like, this is my first time really letting that fall on me, that's a huge journey and something that I really achieved, and being there the times that I've visited now, I have had that feeling of like, "Oh, I remember when I used to be here," but I didn't even realize the full circle moment. That is an incredible thank you for sharing that with me. I can't
Absolutely, I
believe I
love
didn't think
that.
about that. Wow.
Absolutely, yeah, almost a decade later, so it's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, no, time is crazy.
Yeah.
But so we're coming up on our second to last question, but would love to ask you, do you have a favorite genre that you enjoy writing? Or are you just someone who enjoys getting a little bit of everything written?
Honestly, I like getting a little bit of everything. Primarily in TV, I write drama, thriller type of level, and then for features, I do horror and thrillers. But honestly, I'm open to trying everything. And as I've been trying to ideate other concepts that I'm gonna try, I have been trying to challenge myself of just like trying different things and really finding different parts of my voice because I think now is a really important time for me to do it. But like my last thing that I wrote, that I've been going around and taking generals on right now, it's like a grounded sci-fi type of concept, and I actually never even thought that I would be doing that. But I have a fantastic manager who decided to push me a little bit out of my comfort zone, and then I ended up writing a script that I'm very, very proud of. And so I want to keep challenging myself to try different things. I don't know if I'll ever get to like comedy because writing comedy is so hard. I'm like, I can't. But anything else outside of that, I really want to challenge myself to try.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I love dramas, thrillers. Those are just like my 2 main favorites because of the intensity of both. I love just watching sort of like the tension build and just the characters. So, but comedy every now and then to, have a little levity in life because life is already
Yeah.
very intense. So,
Yeah.
yes. So we're here at our last question, and you've dropped so many gems and just wonderful advice already. But if you had to speak to somebody right now who's currently looking to break into the industry, they're a little bit discouraged, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I'm a pretty direct and blunt person. So the first thing I would say, and I think it's helpful, is you need to know that it is difficult. It is difficult. I don't think it's really helpful for anyone to tell you that it's not difficult. It is a very hard industry to be in and to find success in. And I'm still at the very beginning of my career. And like you said, my first internship was almost 10 years ago, and I finally made a full circle moment that makes me feel like, "Oh, okay, maybe things are going right now." But you really have to have that grit. You really just if you really want to do this, then you need to try your best. And like I said earlier, focus on your mental health. Also, I know everyone says networking is very important because it's who you know and all of those things. I've never felt very good at networking because I just can't do that the way that some people network, and I've always told people, "Find the people you can rely on, find the people that you wanna be friends with, find the people you wanna talk to, the people that you wanna work with." It sounds similar to networking, but it's very different to me. I've had friends that I felt really close to that I've met in the industry that was really helpful, but they've also left the industry. But I still have a great friend. You know, I found a person that I connect with. And I think having a community around you that you really care about, that you can actually rely on no matter what, especially when you go through those tough times when you're not working or you're at a job that you hate or you're stressed out of your mind, all of those things, having a community around you that they don't look at you as a network, they look at you as a friend that they really care about. I think that gets you through a lot of tough times. And like I said, focusing on your mental health, but also remembering why you want to do this. I don't think anyone's going to be that successful in this industry if you want fame and fortune. I don't think that's a good reason to be in the industry. If you wanna try to change something, you wanna try to change someone's mind about something, you have this great idea, you wanna put it out in the world to challenge how people think. Um, Caring about that, I think, will always give you a purpose to have a North Star to guide you through the tough times. But there are gonna be tough times, but you can make it. It's fine. It's everyone struggles, but you can make it.
Love it. Absolutely. Wonderful advice. Well, Rance, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, I know I kept saying it throughout the interview, but congrats, seriously, on all your success, on your full circle moment. I'm happy that today we've kind
Yeah.
of brought it back to you and now you're able to just see. But yeah, just thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I know that your future is just going to continue to be bright and shine as it already is. But thank you so much for sharing your journey. And hopefully, would love to have you back or would love to have you talk to more of our students that may be interested in learning more.
Absolutely. I always wanna talk to people about all of this because it's a lot, but
Yes.
we can make it together, and thank you so much for all of the thoughtful questions. Those were amazing.
I want to thank you for joining us today and tuning into another episode of HBCU in Entertainment. If this episode resonated with you, please comment, rate, and review the podcast. Your feedback means the world. Until next time, we appreciate you for lending us your ears. Catch you in the next episode.